Welcome back, everybody. We're going to finish our conversation about clauses. Just that quick reminder, we are talking about every word that is spoken or written has a purpose. And we start with our basic grammar definitions. Whenever we have multiple words that we put together, we have phrases, and then we have clauses, which is going to be the primary focus of this video. Clauses is where you have a subject and a predicate put together. And then once you have those clauses, the combinations of different clauses, you have different sentences and their different forms, whether they are simple, compound, complex, or compound complex types of sentences. And eventually you put those together, you have a purpose and you have different styles. You have very specific reasons why you put sentences together. And then whenever you put multiple sentences together, you start to create paragraphs, and multiple paragraphs, when you put those together, you start to write papers. So that's what we are talking about, specifically about clauses. This is the second video. So we've already gone through the definitions of clauses. The biggest thing you need to remember from that previous video is that clauses have to have a subject and a predicate. So we look specifically for verbs, and there is a four-step process that we are going to go through as I show you the examples that are down below. First step is find that verb. And in the back of your head, you want to pay attention to, is it action or linking? That's important for different purposes. Once you find that verb, then you find out what the subject is, and you do that by asking a specific question, who or what, plus that verb. Okay, and whenever you find that answer, that's going to be your subject. And then you put that subject with the verb that you found, and you ask the question what, or you just basically you're trying to figure out what the rest of that thought is. Sometimes what isn't the exact question you want to put there. It could be how or when, or there's different questions though, but you want to find the rest of that thought. That's going to be the predicate. And then occasionally, if you have multiple clauses in a sentence, you are looking specifically for conjunctions. And there are two main conjunctions that we pay attention to whenever we talk about clauses and how they are joined. So we look for coordinating conjunctions, which are the fanboys. That's that nice, easy list: for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Or the subordinating conjunctions, and there are a lot of the subordinating conjunctions. Coordinating conjunctions, they help us join independent clauses, and subordinating conjunctions, they are the clauses that help join the dependent clause. Like that's usually the first word of a dependent clause. There are different relationships that we have with coordinating conjunctions and subordinating conjunctions. I'll go through those here in just a moment. So specifically our examples that we had below. So we've gone through our definitions. Now I'm giving you one quick example for each type of clause. So independent clause, remember, every time you hear clause, you should be thinking subject and predicate. Specifically, we find the verbs. I'm going to go through the four-step process with you with these sentences too. What I am not going to do, just for sake of time, is I'm not going to do all the color coding. I'm just going to talk you through it. Okay. So the first example is an independent clause. So what we're paying attention to is, does it have a verb? Does it have a subject? Does it have a complete thought? And does it make sense? If it does not make sense, then it would be a dependent clause. Mr. Kimball enjoys teaching English skills to his students. I recognize that the word enjoys is a verb there, not teaching. I know that's one of those confusing things. We were talking about verbals in our basic definitions. That, in fact, would be one of the verbals, not the focus of this conversation, so I'm not going to spend more time on that. Enjoys is, in fact, the verb. The second question that I ask is, who or what enjoys? And I know Mr. Kimball. Third question, Mr. Kimball enjoys what? Mr. Kimball enjoys teaching English skills to his students. That's the rest of the complete thought. It, in fact, is the rest of the words that are in that line. All of that together sounds like a complete thought, so that's why it is an independent clause. It has all the components. It has the verb, it has a subject, it has a complete thought, and it basically makes sense all by itself, which is different than dependent clause. Dependent clause, it's going to have the same components. Whenever his students are in the right mood to learn, same components, meaning it's going to have a verb, it's going to have a subject, but whenever you put it all together, it just doesn't sound right. So let me say it correctly, as if it were written in a sentence, or if someone were to say it out loud, they would sound like this. Whenever his students are in the right mood to learn, and then hopefully your head turned just a little bit because you're waiting for more information. It didn't sound like it was finished. Let me say it one more time. Whenever his students are in the right mood to learn. there just sounds like there needs to be more added to it. But let's make sure it is in fact a dependent clause. Make sure it has all of the components. We have the verb are. Who or what are? Students. Students are what? Students are in the right mood to learn. Okay, great. If I only had that, then I might have an independent clause, but I don't. I have a couple of extra words here. So I need to see, is that word whenever on the coordinating conjunction list? Is that a fanboys? For, and, nor, but, or, yet. So, no, it is not on that list, but it is, in fact, on the subordinating conjunction list. That is a subordinating conjunction. I have to treat it a little bit differently than if it was a fanboys. Subordinating conjunctions are like the newborn babies. You don't leave them alone. You have to attach those with the adult or with the thing that makes sense. Okay. So I can't separate it, just like you wouldn't leave a newborn baby out on the sidewalk and let it fend for itself. You just cannot do that. It just sounds crazy. So subordinating conjunctions, you have to say with the rest of the words. So let me read it one more time. Whenever his students are in the right mood to learn, doesn't sound like it belongs by itself. There needs to be more with it. I have all the components. I have the verb, I have the subject, I have the predicate, I have a subordinating conjunction. By definition, that is the dependent clause. Moving on, we have different types of dependent clauses. So noun clauses. What we're going to find is there are groups of words that function just like an individual word did in a previous sentence. So after students sit in their chairs is the best time to start class. So I have a couple of verbs. I have the word is, and I have the word sit. Let's start with sit. Sit is a verb. Who or what sit? Students. Students sit what or where or how, whatever. To finish that thought, students sit in their chairs. Okay, that's fine. But then I have this word here that kind of throws it off a little bit. And that is, in fact, a conjunction. I recognize that. It is not a fanboys conjunction. It is a subordinated conjunction. So after students sit in their chairs, that doesn't sound like it makes sense by itself, but that is a dependent clause. Dealing with the second verb, the word is. Who or what is? Well, you're not going to say chairs is. You're not going to say students is. But you can, in fact, say that whole clause because that is what it's doing. That whole clause is the best time to start class. When is the best time to start class? After students sit in their chairs. Okay, so that whole clause is functioning like a noun. All right, moving on to adjective clause. Mr. Kimball's classroom, which is located in the main academic wing of the first floor, is a warm and inviting place for flies. Been in my room, you know that's true this time of year. I have a verb there, is, and I also have a verb here, is. Let's keep it in the same order. I'm going to do it from right to left. Is. Who or what is? Well, some of you right away, you're going to say classroom is, which you're kind of correct, but you have this word, which is the pronoun for the word classroom. And the pronoun is being used as the subject for this clause. It is also a subordinating conjunction. A little bit confusing, same word, performing a couple of different tasks in the same sentence or in the same clause. So, because I see the time is running out, I'm just going to say this fairly quickly, which is located in the main academic wing of the first floor. It has the verb, it has a predicate, it has a subject, but it doesn't sound like it makes sense all by itself, which is absolutely true. There is another verb, is. Who or what is? That's the classroom one. Classroom is what? A warm and inviting place. So if I only had Mr. Kimball's classroom as a warm and inviting place, that would be the independent clause. But I have additional subject verb predicate, which is describing the classroom. It's modifying the classroom. So that is the adjective clause, modifying the noun classroom. And then the adverb clause, this, I have 20 seconds left, so I apologize. I'm going to do this very quickly. It's going to be everything at the very beginning. Before students enter Mr. Kimball's room, doesn't make sense by itself, but it has the verb, enter, it has the subject, and it has a subordinating conjunction, and it modifies when they should take care. All right.